Moving along, our next speaker will be talking about water quality and pollinator habitat. And with us we have Marlowe with the San Antonio River Authority. She's a sustainable landscape ecologist, and she is a restoration ecologist with over 17 years of professional experience working in the field of ecological restoration and natural resource management, including sustainable landscape practices and applications. So please welcome Lee.
Thank you. The San Antonio River sustains us. Over 10,000 years ago, people were drawn to the springs that formed the San Antonio River and supported abundant life. The springs no longer flow the way that they used to, but we're still drawn to the river today. The San Antonio River sustains life from its headwaters here in San Antonio all the way to the Gulf Coast. Its many inhabitants depend on the river, from pollinators and migratory birds in San Antonio to the endangered whooping crane in the estuaries along the coast. We depend on the river too, whether we're enjoying it by barge or we're taking a selfie from a canoe on the Goliad paddling trail. Water quality is very important. We are facing some significant challenges throughout our watershed. This is the reality we face after almost any rain event due to urban stormwater runoff. The visible pollutants make it clear that solutions are needed to address pollution in our watershed. Many of the pollutants in our stormwater are not visible, but their impacts on the aquatic life are apparent. The river and its inhabitants need our help. No matter where you are, you're in a watershed, and the rain that falls on the land flows to the nearest creeks and rivers. The health of our creeks and rivers is a reflection of the health of our land, and so we need to ask ourselves, is our watershed healthy? Are there things that we can do to improve the health of our watershed? This is a typical storm drain. And many people are surprised to find that the stormwater that disappears into this drain flows directly into our creeks and rivers. So any pollutants that stormwater has picked up go right into our creeks and rivers, untreated. As we plan for growth, we need to consider our impacts to the watershed. We can choose to make positive impacts to the watershed, or we can choose to make negative impacts to the watershed. Low-impact development is an approach that treats stormwater as an amenity rather than a waste product. And it's a development approach that can actually improve water quality conditions. The key to low-impact development is mimicking natural processes by slowing the water down, spreading the water out, and sinking the water in. If stormwater is allowed to be filtered by plants and soils, it's cleaned naturally, and that benefits our river. Rain gardens are a great low-impact development practice that slow the water down, spread the water out, and sink the water into the ground. We installed rain gardens at our environmental center, and we took a lifeless landscape and transformed it into a landscape full of color and full of life because of the native plants we chose. Rain gardens are not meant to hold water for long periods of time. These photos were taken 24 hours apart following a rain event. The native plants that we've used have very deep roots that help to infiltrate the stormwater into the soil and improve the water cleaning abilities. In addition to the water quality benefits of those native plants, they also provide wildlife benefits. You can choose plants to provide habitat for specific animals, such as the monarch butterfly. And in fact, we've got monarchs moving through our area right now, headed south to Mexico, and they've been in our rain gardens for the past few weeks using the plants you see in these photos, fueling up on the nectar so that they can continue their flight. Thanks to Mayor Ivy Taylor, San Antonio is the first monarch champion city. and we are in a critical location for their migration. As they move up, headed north through our area in the spring, they need nectar for energy, and they also need milkweed to lay their eggs. In the fall, as they're headed south through our area, they need nectar to continue their flight to Mexico. All of these images are plants that support monarch butterflies. There are milkweed species shown, there are nectar plants shown. And what you'll notice is that these plants also support many other pollinating species. Like the monarch, there are lots of other pollinators that require very certain plants at different stages of their life cycle. It's important that if we're using these plants, we understand the needs of their full life cycle. If we were to get rid of these Gulf fritillary caterpillars, we would be getting rid of future Gulf fritillary butterflies. Not every egg from a butterfly turns into a butterfly. This little monarch egg has a very, very small chance of becoming a butterfly. There are lots of natural predators, and in fact, another monarch caterpillar might even eat it. We need to help all of these pollinators by not only providing the plants they need, but managing them in a way that sustains their entire life cycle. So how do you impact stormwater runoff? Do you have a positive impact? Are there things you can do to improve your impact? Do you pay attention to the runoff that you create? Can you improve your impact? Can you slow the water down, spread the water out, and sink the water in? Can you change your practices on your land to provide for wildlife habitat and provide for the full life cycle of the animals that you're attracting? Any little step that you take, a positive step, can be meaningful to the watershed. Are there things that you can do at a community scale or a watershed scale? Whether it's planting trees on the Mission Reach, or planting a native rain garden, or helping us to pick up trash after a rain event, we appreciate any effort that you put in to improve the watershed. Please consider joining the Watershed Wise Warriors and taking part in citizen science programs that collect data and help us understand our watershed better. We hope that you will join us in our efforts to improve the watershed and improve our impacts to the San Antonio River through sustainable stormwater management practices that provide not only water quality benefits, but wildlife benefits, so that our river can continue to sustain us long into the future. Thank you.